My daughter sold my house while I was on vacation to cover $200,000 of my son-in-law's debts. When I came back and knocked on the door, she opened it with a smile I didn't recognize. Behind her was Vincent, my son-in-law, with his arms crossed and that look of someone who just won something big. "Now you're homeless, Mom." Jessica tossed out those words like someone taking out the trash. Vincent laughed. It was a short, dry laugh, full of satisfaction. I just smiled. I didn't say anything. I just smiled calmly, looking at them both. "Why are you smiling?" Jessica's voice rose. She wasn't smiling anymore. Vincent stopped laughing too. They both looked at me now with something different in their eyes. Nervousness. Fear, maybe. "What are you smiling about, Mom?" I stayed quiet. I just looked at them for one more second. Then I turned around and walked toward the street. I let them stay there, standing in the doorway, wondering what I knew that they didn't. But let me tell you how we got here. How a 70-year-old woman, a widow, alone, ended up being betrayed by the only person she had left in the world. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I'm 70 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I had a house. A house that my husband and I bought when Jessica was 5 years old. A house where memories grew, where we celebrated birthdays, where we mourned losses, where we grew old together. My husband died 8 years ago. Heart attack. Quick. No goodbyes. One morning he was having coffee with me in the kitchen, and that same afternoon, he was gone. That simple. That cruel. After that, I was alone. Jessica would come visit me once a month, sometimes less. Always in a hurry, always with her phone in her hand, always checking her watch, but she came. And I clung to those visits like you cling to a log in the middle of the sea. 6 months ago, Jessica came over with Vincent. I had never liked him. He had that way of talking where every word seemed to be sizing you up. That smile that didn't reach his eyes. Those restless hands, always looking for something. That day, they told me they wanted to talk. We sat in the living room. The same living room where Jessica had played as a child, where she'd opened Christmas presents, where she'd cried over her first broken heart. "Mom, we want to propose something." Jessica had her hands clasped over her knees. Vincent watched her out of the corner of his eye, as if supervising every word. "We want you to go on a trip. A month, 2 months. As long as you want. We'll pay for everything. You deserve a rest. Mom, you've worked your whole life." It sounded nice. It sounded generous. But there was something in the way she said it. Something in her tone. Something in the urgency of her eyes. "I don't need to travel, honey." Vincent leaned forward. "Eleanor, it's not about need. It's about enjoying yourself. You've given so much. It's time to get something back." I looked at my daughter. She nodded with too much energy, too much enthusiasm. "Fake. And we just need one small thing, Mom. A power of attorney. Just for emergencies. In case something happens while you're gone. In case we need to pay for something. Sign something. Nothing important. Nothing important." Those words should have made me run. But when you're 70 years old and your only daughter is asking you for something, when you've spent years feeling like you're a burden, that you're in the way, that you take up space, you say yes. Even if something inside you is screaming no. I signed the power of attorney 3 days later. At a notary's office downtown. Jessica was there, smiling, squeezing my hand. Vincent waited outside, talking on his phone. I signed. The notary explained what it meant. I nodded. I signed again. 1 week later, I was on a plane to Europe. Jessica had organized everything. A tour of London, Paris, and Rome, hotels paid, meals included, everything perfect, too perfect. During the trip, I tried to enjoy myself. I walked down ancient streets. I ate in restaurants with white tablecloths. I visited museums. But something wouldn't let me be calm. Something in my chest was vibrating like a taut wire about to snap. Jessica called me every 3 days. Always the same questions. "How are you? Mom? Do you like it? Are you resting?" She never asked about the house. Never mentioned anything about what was happening back home. Until one night, 2 weeks after I'd left, I got a text from an unknown number. "Eleanor, It's Maria Sanchez, your old neighbor. I need to talk to you urgently. Call me when you can. It's about your house. Maria. I hadn't spoken to her in years, not since she moved downtown to work in real estate, but I remembered her well. A good woman. The kind who doesn't forget a favor. I called her that night. Her voice sounded tense. Eleanor, I don't know how to tell you this. Some papers crossed my desk at the office today. Your house is for sale. Your daughter listed it a week ago. The world stopped. The lights of Paris outside my window, the sound of the street, it all faded away. Are you sure, Maria? Completely. I saw the documents. She used the power of attorney. The sale is already in escrow. I hung up. I sat on the hotel bed. I breathed. Once, twice, 3 times. Then I knew. I knew everything. That's why the trip. That's why the power of attorney. That's why all the sudden generosity. But I also knew something else. Something they didn't know. I flew back to the States 2 days later. Canceled the rest of the tour. I took the first available flight. When I got to my house, there it was, a new lock on the door. The keys that no longer worked, and the certainty that my daughter had sold me out. I rang the doorbell. Jessica opened it, and she said those words I will never forget. Now you're homeless, Mom. I just smiled. Because I knew something they didn't. Something they would find out very soon. The property they sold wasn't what they thought it was. When Jessica was little, she used to wake up in the middle of the night crying. Nightmares, always the same ones. She dreamed she was alone in an empty house, and no one was coming for her. I would run to her room, hold her, and sing softly until she fell back asleep. I'd stay there, sitting on the floor by her bed, my back against the wall, watching over her sleep until sunrise. That's what a mother did. That's what I did for years. Now, standing in front of that padlocked door, I remembered every one of those nights, every time I gave up my sleep to protect hers, every time I put her needs before mine, and I wondered, at what point did the little girl who was afraid of being alone become the woman who left me homeless? My husband Arthur died on a Tuesday. I remember because we had planned to go to the farmer's market that day. He loved the farmer's market. He loved to haggle with the vendors, feel the fruit to see what was ripe, pick out fresh flowers for the kitchen table. That morning, he got up early as always, made coffee. I heard him from the bedroom, that familiar sound of cups clinking on the counter, the water boiling, his bare feet on the hardwood floor. When I came down, he was sitting at the table with the newspaper open. He looked at me and smiled. That smile I had seen thousands of times over 40 years of marriage. I sat across from him. We drank coffee together. We talked about the weather, about nothing important, about everything. 10 minutes later, he put his hand to his chest. His eyes went wide. He said my name just once, Eleanor. Like that, soft, like a sigh. Then he collapsed onto the table. I called 911. I screamed. I cried. I tried to wake him. But he was already gone. Quick, without warning, without giving me time to tell him how much I loved him, without giving me time to say goodbye. Jessica got to the hospital 3 hours later. She was wearing makeup. Her hair was perfect, high heels, as if she'd come from an important meeting. She hugged me. She cried a little, but her tears dried up too quickly. At the funeral, she was on her phone half the time, answering texts, checking Facebook, as if her father's death was just an inconvenience in her schedule. After that, the visits became more spaced out, once a month, once every 2 months, always in a hurry, always with excuses, always with Vincent waiting for her in the car, honking the horn if she took too long. I understood. Or that's what I told myself. She had her life, her marriage, her things. I couldn't expect her to be with me all the time. But the nights were long, the house was big, and the silence weighed on my chest like a stone. I sold a few things, furniture I no longer used, Arthur's clothes that hurt me to see hanging in the closet. I got by on that money. My Social Security wasn't much, $800 a month, enough to live on if you were careful, if you didn't get sick, if you didn't need anything extra. Jessica never asked if I needed help, never offered money. but I never asked either. I had my pride, I had my dignity, and above all, I didn't want to be a burden. A year ago, Vincent lost his job. Jessica told me during one of those quick visits. We had tea in the living room. She stared out the window while she talked, as if the words hurt. Vincent had some trouble at the company, Mom. He was fired. They say there were irregularities in the accounts. But he's innocent. It was just bad luck. I nodded. I didn't say anything. But I saw something in her eyes. Worry, fear, and something else. Something I didn't want to name at that moment. The following months, the visits got even stranger. Jessica would arrive and walk through the house, looking at everything. The walls, the furniture, the backyard. Like she was measuring, calculating. One day I found her in Arthur's study. She was going through papers, old documents, deeds. "What are you doing, honey?" She jumped. She shut the drawer quickly. "Nothing, Mom. Just looking for an old picture of Dad. To put up in my house." She was lying. I knew it. But I let it go. Because you want to believe. Because you need to believe your daughter isn't capable of certain things. Vincent started coming inside with her. Before, he always waited outside. Now he came in. He sat down. He looked around with those eyes that calculated the value of everything. He asked questions. "Eleanor, how long ago did you buy this house? What's it worth now? Is the mortgage paid off?" I answered, naive, trusting, thinking it was just conversation. Then that day came, 6 months ago, when they proposed the trip, when they asked for the power of attorney, when everything started to fall into place. That night, after they left, I sat in the living room, in the dark, listening to the silence of the house, listening to the memories that lived in every corner. I remembered when we bought this house. Arthur and I had just gotten married. He worked in construction. I cleaned houses. We saved every penny for 5 years. We ate beans and rice. We wore old clothes. We didn't go anywhere, all to scrape together the down payment for this house. The day we closed was a Saturday. I remember it was raining. Arthur carried me over the threshold. We were both soaked. We both laughed like children. "This is our house, Eleanor. No one can take it from us." A lie. Someone could take it from us. Our own daughter. I remembered the day Jessica was born. 20 hours of labor. Pain that has no name. But when they put her in my arms, when I saw her open eyes looking at me, it was all worth it. I promised her I would always protect her, that she would never want for anything, that I would be a good mother. I kept my promise. I worked 2 jobs to send her to a private school. Arthur worked from sunrise to sunset. We both sacrificed. We both put our dreams aside so she could have hers. Jessica wanted to study business. We paid for her college. 5 years. Full tuition. Books. New clothes for her classes. Everything. When she graduated, Arthur cried with pride. So did I. Our daughter was a professional. Our daughter was going to be okay. It had all been worth it. Then she met Vincent. She brought him to meet us one afternoon. He wore an expensive suit, a shiny watch, a brand new car. He talked about deals, about investments, about money. Arthur didn't say anything that night, but later, when we were alone in our room, he squeezed my hand. "I don't like that man, Eleanor. He's got shark's eyes." I asked him to give him a chance, that Jessica loved him, that we had to trust her judgment. Arthur nodded, but he never changed his mind. They got married 6 months later. Big wedding. Expensive. Vincent insisted on paying for everything. He didn't want us to contribute anything. He said he could handle it, that we had already done enough. At the wedding, Jessica danced with Arthur. I saw my husband cry as he held her. I saw him whisper something in her ear. She nodded, smiled, kissed him on the cheek. I found out later he had told her, "Take good care of her. She's all we have." Vincent did not take good care of her. Vincent turned her into someone I didn't recognize, someone who measured the value of things only in money, someone who saw her own mother as a resource. The first few years of the marriage were good. They came for dinner on Sundays. Jessica brought dessert. Vincent talked about his successful business deals, about important clients, big contracts. It all sounded good. But then Arthur died. And something changed. The visits spaced out. The calls got shorter. Jessica was always in a hurry. Always had something more important to do. I told myself it was normal, that she had her own life. But the truth is, it hurt. It hurt every time she hung up the phone quickly, every time she canceled a visit, every time she made me feel like I was a burden. And now this. Now the complete betrayal. Now the confirmation that to her, I was just an obstacle, a problem, something to be solved. That night, sitting in the darkness of my living room, I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to shed any more tears for someone who didn't deserve them. I was going to do something better. I was going to be smart. I was going to protect myself. Because if Arthur taught me one thing, it was this. In this world, you have to look out for yourself, because no one else will. The next day, I signed the power of attorney. I smiled as I did it. I thanked them for the trip. I packed my bag. I said my goodbyes. And I went to Europe with a plan they never saw coming. The day before I left for Europe, Jessica came over early. She brought flowers, pink roses, my favorite. That should have alerted me. Jessica never remembered my favorite flowers. She never remembered my birthday, unless someone reminded her. And there she was, with a perfect bouquet, smiling too wide. "Mom, how exciting. You leave for your trip tomorrow." She put the flowers on the kitchen table. She moved through my house with a strange familiarity, opening drawers, looking at papers, touching things she didn't need to touch. "Do you have everything ready? Passport? Bags?" "Yes, honey. All set. Perfect. And remember, we'll take care of everything here. Don't you worry about a thing. Just enjoy yourself. You deserve it." She hugged me. It was a long hug. Too long. As if she were saying goodbye to more than just me. When she pulled away, her eyes were shining. For a moment, I thought it was tears. But no, it was something else. Relief, maybe. Or anticipation. Vincent arrived an hour later. He had papers in a leather briefcase. He sat down at the dining room table without being invited. He opened the briefcase and spread documents out on the table. "Eleanor, we just need you to sign here and here. It's just some additional authorizations. In case we need to do anything urgent while you're away." "What kind of things?" "Anything. Paying utilities, renewing registrations, banking stuff. You know, the usual." Usual. That word again. Everything was normal to them. Everything was simple. Everything was necessary. I took the pen. I held it over the first document. I read the first few lines, legal jargon I didn't fully understand. Broad powers, irrevocable authority, total representation. "Are you sure you need all this?" Vincent looked at me with that smile I already knew. Patient. Condescending. Like someone explaining something obvious to someone slow. "Eleanor, it's just a precaution. Besides, you trust your daughter, right?" That question. That damned question. How do you say you don't trust your own daughter? How do you admit out loud that there's something in her eyes that scares you? I signed. Once, twice, 3 times. Vincent gathered the papers quickly. He put them in his briefcase, like someone locking away a treasure. "Excellent. Now you can really go and relax. We'll take care of everything." I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake staring at my bedroom ceiling, the same room where I had slept with Arthur for 40 years. The same one where he had died in my arms that morning 8 years ago, when his heart decided to give up without warning. Something wasn't right. I knew it. I felt it in my bones. In that instinct you develop after 70 years of life, that instinct that tells you when someone is lying to you, when someone is using you. But I had already signed. I had already given them the power. It was too late to back out without looking like a paranoid, suspicious old woman. Or so I thought. I got up at 5 in the morning, made coffee. I sat in the kitchen waiting for the sunrise. When the light started to filter through the windows, I made a decision. I dialed a number I had kept for years. My lawyer's, the same one who had helped Arthur and me buy the house, the same one who had drafted our wills. "Mr. Coleman, it's Eleanor Hayes. I need to see you today. It's urgent." I got to his office at 9. He greeted me with coffee, and that kindness only truly decent people have. I told him everything. The trip, The power of attorney, the signatures. He listened in silence. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. Eleanor, with that power of attorney, your daughter can do practically anything with your properties. Sell, mortgage, transfer. I knew it. Deep down, I knew it. But hearing it out loud made it all real. Palpable, terrifying. Is there anything I can do? He thought for a moment. He drummed his fingers on the desk. Then he nodded. There is something, but you have to trust me, and you have to act fast. He explained the plan. I listened to every word, every detail. When he finished, I looked him in the eyes. Will it work? If your daughter does what you think she's going to do, yes, it will work perfectly. That same day, we made the necessary moves. New documents, strategic transfers, all legal, all registered, all of it invisible to anyone who didn't know where to look. When I left that office, the sun was high. It was hot. The city was humming with its usual noise. But I walked differently. I was no longer the vulnerable old woman they could fool. I was no longer the naive mother who trusted blindly. I was someone else. Someone who was about to teach them a lesson they would never forget. That afternoon, Jessica called again. Her voice sounded cheerful, excessively cheerful. Mom, all set for tomorrow? Vincent and I can pick you up and take you to the airport. You don't need to get a car service. That's not necessary, honey. I already arranged for a car. There was a brief silence. Are you okay, Mom? You sound strange. I'm fine. Just tired from packing. Well, enjoy the trip. You deserve it. You really, really deserve it. Those words, you deserve it, as if the trip were a prize, as if they were doing me a favor, when in reality, it was the perfect distraction to rob me blind. Thank you, honey. I hung up. I sat on the living room sofa. I looked at the photographs on the wall. Arthur and me on our wedding day, Jessica as a baby, Jessica at her graduation, a family that was once happy, a family that once loved each other. When did it all break? When did my daughter stop seeing me as her mother and start seeing me as a way to get money? Maybe when she met Vincent. Maybe when he filled her head with expensive dreams and oversized ambitions. Maybe when she decided that love was worth less than money. Or maybe she was always this way and I just refused to see it. Maybe there was always something in her that preferred material things to people, and I, blind with motherly love, never recognized it. That night, I put some important things in a small safe I had hidden in my closet. Photographs, documents, my grandmother's jewelry that Arthur had given me. Things that had sentimental value, not monetary value. Things Jessica would never understand. I closed the safe, turned the combination. I hid it behind old clothes no one would ever look through. The next day, I got on the plane. The flight was long, uncomfortable. I wasn't used to flying. I didn't like heights. I didn't like being trapped in that metal tube floating over the ocean. But I did it. Because I needed to be far away. Because I needed them to think I was far away, that I was distracted, that I was helpless. London received me with rain. I took a cab to the hotel, a small but clean place in the city center. I left my bags and sat on the bed. I took out my phone. I had 3 texts from Jessica. Mom, did you land okay? Mom, let me know when you get in. Mom, I'm worried. Worried. What an ironic word coming from her. I texted back, landed safely. I'm tired. Let's talk tomorrow. I couldn't sleep that night. Not because of the time change, not because of the strange bed, but because I knew what was about to happen. I knew that at some point, in the coming days or weeks, Jessica would make the move I was expecting. And when she did, I would be ready. I spent the next few days walking around London without really seeing anything. I went into museums and couldn't remember what I'd seen. I ate in restaurants and didn't taste the food. It was all mechanical. It was all just waiting. Until the text from Maria came. Eleanor, it's Maria Sanchez, your old neighbor. I need to talk to you urgently. It's about your house. My heart stopped. I took a deep breath. I dialed her number with trembling hands. Maria? Eleanor, thanks for calling. I didn't know if I should tell you this, but Your house is for sale. I saw the papers today at the office. Your daughter listed it. It already has offers. What's the asking price? $250,000. The air left my lungs. $250,000. The house Arthur and I had bought for $50,000 all those years ago. The house we had paid for with sweat and tears. Thank you for telling me, Maria. Eleanor, I'm so sorry. If you need anything, you've already done enough. I appreciate it. I hung up. I sat there in that hotel room in London, thousands of miles from home, knowing that my daughter was betraying me at that very moment, but also knowing that I had prepared something she never saw coming. I smiled. It was a sad smile, a bitter one, but it was a smile. Now, I just had to wait. I flew back to the States 2 weeks after Maria's call. I canceled the rest of the tour. I made up an excuse about feeling sick. Jessica called me, worried, when I told her I was coming back early. Her voice sounded nervous, too high-pitched. Are you sick, Mom? Do you need us to pick you up from the airport? No, honey. I just want to be home. I've already arranged for a car. But Mom, you still have 2 weeks left on your trip. It's all paid for. I know. But I want to come home. There was a long silence on the other end. I heard muffled voices. Vincent, talking fast, whispering something I couldn't understand. Okay, Mom. We'll see you at home then. She hung up quickly. Too quickly. The flight back was eternal. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just stared out the window at that infinite darkness, thinking about what was waiting for me, thinking about the look on Jessica's face when she saw me, thinking about the lies she was already preparing. I landed on a Tuesday morning. I took a cab straight to my house. The whole ride, my heart was pounding so hard I thought the driver could hear it. I looked out the window at the familiar streets, my neighborhood, my block. Everything looked the same. But everything had changed. When the taxi stopped in front of my house, the first thing I saw was the sign, big, red, for sale, planted on my lawn like an obscene declaration of betrayal. I paid the driver. I got out slowly. My legs were shaking, but I couldn't let it show. I walked to the door. I got out my keys. I put them in the lock. They didn't turn. I tried again. Nothing. The lock had been changed. My own house was rejecting me. The keys I had carried for 42 years were useless. I rang the doorbell. I waited. Nothing. I rang again. Harder. Silence. I took out my phone and dialed Jessica's number. It rang 5 times before she answered. Mom, you're back. It wasn't a question. It was a confirmation of something she already knew. Jessica. I'm at the house. I can't get in. They changed the lock. Oh, right. There was a problem with the door. We had to change the lock. Come to the apartment. I'll explain everything there. What problem? Why didn't you tell me, Mom? We didn't want to worry you. You were on vacation. We can talk calmly at the apartment. She hung up before I could say anything else. I stood there, on the porch of my own house, with the for sale sign mocking me from the yard, with the useless keys in my hand, with 70 years of life weighing on my shoulders like rocks. A neighbor walked by, Mrs. Gable. She lived 3 doors down. She looked at me with pity. That look people give you when they know something terrible that you haven't confirmed yet. Eleanor, it's good to see you back. I saw they put the house up for sale. Are you moving? I smiled. That fake smile you learn to make after 70 years of politeness and good manners? We're just looking at options, Mrs. Gable. Oh, how nice. Well, if you need anything, you know where I live. She walked away quickly, as if my misfortune was contagious, as if she didn't want to be nearby when it all exploded. I took another cab. I gave the driver Jessica's address. The driver didn't speak the whole way. Maybe he saw something in my face. Maybe he was just a respectful man. It didn't matter. I was grateful for it. I got to the building. That flashy place with the marble lobby and the doorman in a uniform. I walked in without greeting anyone. I got in the elevator. I pressed the button for the 10th floor. The doors closed, and for a moment, I was alone in that metal cube, rising toward the sky. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath, I prepared myself. When the doors opened, there she was. Jessica, waiting for me in the hallway, dressed in expensive clothes, perfect makeup, freshly styled hair, as if she were about to go to a party and not confront the mother she had just betrayed. "Hi, Mom. Come on in." Her voice was too cheerful, forced, fake. I walked into the apartment. Vincent was sitting on the sofa. He had a glass of whiskey in his hand, even though it was barely 10 in the morning. He looked at me and nodded. That gesture he always made, as if I were an employee, as if my presence was barely tolerable. "Sit down, Mom. I'd rather stand." Jessica sighed. She crossed her arms. She wasn't smiling anymore. The mask had fallen. "Fine. Then I'll tell you standing up. We sold the house." The words hit me like hammer blows. Even though I knew, even though Maria had warned me, even though I had been preparing for this moment for 2 weeks, hearing it from her mouth was different. It was like being stabbed by someone you swore would never hurt you. "How could you?" My voice came out small, broken. I hated sounding like that. I hated giving them that satisfaction, but I couldn't help it. Vincent got up from the sofa. He walked toward me with that condescending smile I hated so much. "Look, Eleanor, it's not personal, it's business. I had debts. $200,000. Dangerous people. If I didn't pay, we were going to lose everything. The house was the solution. It was my house. It was a house, Eleanor. Just a house. You have your Social Security. You can rent a small place, an apartment, a room. There are options. Options. As if 70 years of memories could be packed into a room. As if the place where I buried my husband, where I raised my daughter, where I built my life, could be replaced with something small and cheap. Jessica came closer. She put her hand on my shoulder, a gesture that was meant to be comforting, but it felt like poison. "Mom, understand, we had no choice. Besides, you gave us the power of attorney. You signed. It's all legal." Legal. That word. As if legality erased the betrayal, as if a signed paper justified stealing your own mother's life. "When does the sale close?" Vincent and Jessica exchanged a look. "It already closed, Mom. A week ago. The money is already in the bank. The debts are paid. It's done." I stared at them. Both of them. My daughter and the man who had turned her into this. I saw something in their eyes that chilled my blood. There was no remorse, no guilt. There was only relief. And something else. Triumph. They thought they had won. They thought they had beaten me. They thought the foolish old woman had fallen into their perfect trap. I smiled. I don't know why. Maybe it was nerves. Maybe it was because I knew something they didn't. Maybe it was because after 70 years of being the good one, the understanding one, the one who always forgave, I had finally learned to play their game. "Why are you smiling?" Jessica's voice rose. Her face tensed. Vincent frowned. They both looked at me as if I had gone insane. "What are you smiling about, Mom?" "Nothing, honey. I'm just tired." But I didn't stop smiling. I couldn't. Because my purse held documents they had never seen. Because my head held information they didn't know. Because Mr. Coleman had done his job perfectly. "Well, then go. Find somewhere to live. We can't help you. We've done enough." Jessica pointed to the door, like shooing a dog, like getting rid of trash, her own mother. I turned to leave. I walked toward the door with slow steps. I felt their eyes on my back. I felt their contempt, their satisfaction, their relief at having gotten rid of me. Before I left, I stopped. I turned my head just a little, enough to see them out of the corner of my eye. "Can I ask you something, Jessica?" She rolled her eyes. Vincent poured himself another drink. "What? Did you check the paperwork carefully before you sold it?" Her expression changed. Just for a second, a flicker of doubt, of uncertainty. Then the mask of confidence returned. "Of course. Everything was in order. Vincent checked every document. Right, honey?" Vincent nodded. But something in his eyes told me he wasn't so sure. "Okay. Just asking." I left. I closed the door behind me. The hallway was empty. Silent. I walked toward the elevator, holding every muscle in my body tight. I couldn't tremble. I couldn't cry. Not yet. When the elevator doors closed, I took out my phone. I dialed the number I had called so many times in the last 2 weeks. Maria? It's me. I'm back. They know I know. Now the second part of the plan begins. Her voice was steady on the other end. I'm ready, Eleanor. Everything is prepared. Tomorrow morning. I hung up. I went down to the lobby. I walked out onto the street. The sun hit my face. The city roared with its usual noise. Cars, people, life going on as if nothing had happened. I sat on a park bench across from the building. I looked up. To the 10th floor. I imagined Jessica and Vincent up there, celebrating, toasting, congratulating themselves on solving their problem. They had no idea what was coming. They had no idea of the storm that was about to break over them. I opened my purse. I took out an envelope. Inside were the documents, the proof, the truth that would destroy them. I stroked the envelope with trembling fingers. 70 years. 70 years to get to this moment. To understand that sometimes love isn't enough. That sometimes you have to protect yourself. That sometimes the people you swore to love are the same ones who stick the knife in. I put the envelope away. I stood up. I walked toward the taxi stand. I had to find a place to stay for the night. A hotel. A room. Something temporary while what I had set in motion unfolded. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I didn't feel weak. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. Because I had something they never had. I had the truth. And the truth was about to set me free. That night, I stayed in a small hotel near downtown. A simple room with a hard bed and thin curtains that let in the streetlight. I didn't sleep. I stayed awake staring at the ceiling, listening to the cars pass, thinking about everything that was to come. At 7 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Maria. Eleanor, can you come to my office? There's someone here who wants to talk to you. Who? Someone who can help you. Trust me. I got to Maria's office an hour later. It was in an old downtown building, 3rd floor, no elevator. I climbed the stairs slowly, feeling every one of my 70 years in my knees. I knocked on the door. Maria opened it immediately. She hugged me. It was a long, sincere hug. The first real hug I'd gotten in months. Maybe years. Come in, Eleanor. He's inside. I went in. In the small conference room, a man was sitting. He looked to be in his 50s. Gray hair. A simple but clean suit. When he saw me, he stood up and extended his hand. Mrs. Hayes, I'm David Evans. I work at the county recorder's office where the sale of your property was registered. I sat down. Maria made coffee. David opened a briefcase and took out documents, spreading them on the table. Mrs. Hayes, Maria told me your situation, and when I reviewed the sale documents, I found something strange. Very strange. What did you find? He pointed to one of the documents. I didn't understand much of the legal terms, but I tried to concentrate. The property your daughter sold is registered under this address. It matches your house. But when I searched the public record, I found that 3 weeks before the sale, you made a transfer. You moved the property into a trust. I nodded slowly. Mr. Coleman's plan had worked exactly as he said. So, what did my daughter sell? David looked at me with something that looked like respect, almost admiration. Technically, nothing. She sold a property that was no longer in her name, that no longer legally existed as hers. The sale is void, completely null. Maria sat down next to me. She took my hand. Eleanor, did you know this? I looked her in the eyes. This woman who had been my neighbor for years, who had come to my house when her husband beat her, whom I had given shelter, food, a safe place, who never forgot that gesture and was now returning the favor. Yes, Maria. I knew. David kept talking, but I was barely listening. I was remembering that day in Mr. Coleman's office, when he explained the plan. Eleanor, if you think your daughter is going to sell your house, we can protect it. We move the property into a trust in your name. She'll have the power of attorney, but the house will no longer be registered the way she thinks. When she tries to sell it, the sale will be fraudulent. And that's where we catch her. I had doubted. It had seemed too complicated, too risky. But Mr. Coleman had insisted. Trust me, I've seen cases like this before. Children who take advantage of their elderly parents. This will stop them, and it will teach them a lesson. Now, sitting in that office with Maria and David, I understood that Mr. Coleman was right. "What does this mean exactly?" Maria asked. David leaned back in his chair. "It means Mrs. Hayes can sue for fraud, for falsifying documents, for misuse of power of attorney, and she can recover the money that was obtained from that fraudulent sale. And my daughter? What will happen to her?" David looked me straight in the eye. No judgment, no pity, just facts. She could face criminal charges, her and her husband, depending on how you want to proceed. Silence filled the room. Maria squeezed my hand. David waited for my answer. I looked at those documents on the table. Proof of the betrayal. Proof that my own daughter had stolen from me. How long do I have to decide? Legally, you have several years. But the sooner you act, the better. The money from the sale can still be traced. It can still be recovered. I need to think. Of course, take your time. Here's my card. When you're ready, call me. David stood up. He gave me his card. He left the office, leaving Maria and me alone. "Eleanor, are you okay?" "I don't know, Maria. I don't know." She made more coffee. We sat in silence for several minutes. Just the sound of the street coming through the window, horns, voices, life passing by while my world fell apart. "Do you remember when you let me stay with you?" Maria asked suddenly. I looked at her. "Of course I remember. Your husband had hit you. You came to my house in the middle of the night with a split lip and a black eye. I opened the door. I gave you my bedroom. I called the police. You stayed with me for 3 weeks until you found your own place." Maria nodded. Her eyes filled with tears. "I never thanked you properly. You saved my life, Eleanor. Literally. If I had stayed with him one more night, I might not be here. And now I can give you back some of what you did for me. You don't have to give me anything back. I did it because it was the right thing to do. And this is the right thing to do, too. Suing your daughter. Getting back what's yours. Protecting yourself. That's the right thing. But she's my daughter, Maria. I know, and that makes it harder. But think about this. If you let her get away with this, what are you teaching her? That it's okay to steal? That it's okay to abuse people? That it's okay to hurt the people who love you? She was right. I knew it. But accepting it hurt like a knife in my chest. That afternoon, I went back to the hotel. I sat on the bed. I took out my phone. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. Finally, I dialed a number. "Mr. Coleman? It's Eleanor Hayes. I'm ready to proceed." His voice was calm. "Professional." "Very good, Eleanor. We'll file the lawsuit tomorrow." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." I hung up. I sat on that cheap hotel bed, feeling the weight of the decision. I was about to destroy my own daughter, probably send her to jail, ruin her life. But she had tried to ruin mine first. That night, I actually slept, deeply, for the first time in weeks, as if my body knew I had finally taken control, that I had finally stopped being the victim. The next morning, I met Mr. Coleman at his office. I signed papers, authorizations, lawsuits, everything needed to start the legal process against Jessica and Vincent. "This will take time," he warned me. "It could be a long, painful process. Are you prepared? I've lived 70 years. I've survived my husband's death. I've survived loneliness. I've survived my own daughter's betrayal. I'm prepared for whatever comes next." He nodded. He put the documents in his briefcase. "Then, let's begin." 3 days later, Jessica was served the papers. Maria called to tell me. She had seen Vincent at the bank, screaming at an employee, papers in his hand, his face red with fury. "They froze their accounts," Maria told me. "They can't touch the money from the sale. It's being held until the case is resolved." "And Jessica? She's been trying to call you, like 20 times. Left messages. Did you listen to them?" "No." "I blocked her number. A lie. I hadn't blocked it. I just hadn't answered. But I had heard every message, every plea, every attempt at manipulation. 'Mom, this is a mistake. Call me. Mom, we need to talk. This can be fixed. Mom, how can you do this to us? We're your family.' Family. That word that had meant everything to me for 70 years. That word she had destroyed when she signed the sale papers for my house. A week later, I had an unexpected visitor. A knock on my hotel room door. I opened it. It was Vincent. He looked different. Worn out. Red eyes. Wrinkled clothes. He no longer had that arrogance. That air of superiority. Now he just looked like a desperate man. "Eleanor, I need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about." I tried to close the door, but he put his foot in the way. "Please, 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes." I let him in. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to see how far he had fallen. I needed to see the fear in his eyes. He sat in the only chair in the room. I stood by the door, ready to kick him out if necessary. "Eleanor, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I had the debts, dangerous people, I was going to lose everything. I thought, and you thought stealing from me was the solution? It wasn't stealing. We were going to pay you back. As soon as we sorted everything out, I swear." Liar. The word came out cold. Sharp. He looked down. The debts were from gambling, weren't they? Casinos, the ponies, stupid investments. And when you lost everything, you decided my house was your salvation. He didn't answer. He just sat there with his head down, like a punished child. "Drop the lawsuit, please. Jessica is a wreck. She can't sleep. She can't eat. She cries all day. This is killing her. She should have thought of that before she sold me out. Eleanor, please, we're family. Family doesn't steal from you. Family doesn't betray you. Family doesn't leave you on the street. You stopped being my family the day you signed those papers." I stood up. I opened the door. "Get out, Vincent, and don't come back. Next time, I'm calling the police." He stood up slowly. He walked to the door. Before he left, he turned one last time. "Are you really going to destroy your own daughter?" I looked him straight in the eye. "She tried to destroy me first. I'm just defending myself." I closed the door. I heard him walk down the hall. Then, silence. I sat on the bed. I was shaking, but not from fear, from rage, from pain, from liberation. I had crossed the point of no return. And for the first time in my life, I felt okay with that. After Vincent's visit, something changed in me. I no longer felt pity. I no longer felt guilt. I just felt a cold, precise clarity about what I had to do. For 70 years, I had been the woman who forgave, the one who understood, the one who put others' needs before her own. But that woman had died the day I found my house with a new lock. I moved out of the hotel and into a small apartment Maria helped me find. A temporary place while everything was resolved. 2 rooms, a small kitchen, a window overlooking the street. It wasn't much, but it was mine. No one could take it from me. Every morning, I got up early, made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table and reviewed documents. Mr. Coleman had given me copies of everything. Bank statements, sale records, money transfers. Every paper was another piece of the puzzle that would destroy them. I discovered things I didn't know. Vincent didn't just owe $200,000. He owed almost $300,000 to banks, to casinos, to loan sharks. People who didn't take excuses. People who collected in ways you didn't want to imagine. Jessica knew. Of course she knew. And instead of facing it, instead of leaving him, she decided the solution was to sacrifice me. Her mother, the woman who gave her life, who worked 2 jobs to send her to college, who went without vacations for years so she could have new clothes, new shoes, new books. None of that meant anything compared to her marriage, to her status, to her luxury apartment, and her perfect life on social media. One afternoon, Maria came to visit. She brought food, rotisserie chicken, rice, warm bread. We sat and ate in that small kitchen like 2 old friends, like 2 survivors. "How are you holding up with all this?" she asked. "Better than I thought. It's strange. I thought I'd feel worse. I thought I'd regret it. But I don't. I feel liberated." She nodded. She understood. She had also had to make hard choices when she left her abusive husband, when she decided her life was worth more than keeping up appearances. Heard anything from Jessica? She tried to come here, but the doorman wouldn't let her up. I told him not to let her pass, that I don't want to see her. Maria looked at me with those understanding eyes. It's okay to protect yourself, Eleanor. It's not selfishness. It's survival. That night, I wrote a letter, not to send, just for me, to get out everything I was holding inside, everything I had never said to Jessica out loud. Dear Jessica, I gave you life. I gave you my time. I gave you my energy. I gave you every dollar I earned cleaning other people's houses so you wouldn't have to. I gave you unconditional love even when you didn't deserve it, and you paid me back by selling me out. As if I were an object, as if I didn't have feelings, as if 70 years of love could be erased with a signature. I didn't finish the letter. I tore it into small pieces. I threw it in the trash. I didn't need to send it. I didn't need her to read it. I just needed to get it out of my system. Mr. Coleman called me the next morning. Eleanor, I have news. The judge has accepted our suit. There's a hearing scheduled for 2 weeks from now. You will have to testify. Testify? In front of Jessica? In front of her and Vincent? You will have to tell them what happened. In your own words. Can you do that? I took a deep breath. The thought of being in the same room with them made my stomach turn, but I had to do it. For me, for my house, for my dignity, I can do it. Good. We'll prepare then. I need you to write everything down, from the beginning. Every detail, every conversation, every moment you suspected something. I spent the next few days writing, filling pages and pages with my story, with the truth they had tried to bury. Every word was like pulling out a deeply embedded thorn. It hurt, but it also cleansed. Meanwhile, Mr. Coleman worked on his strategy. He called me every 2 days with updates. They had found more irregularities in the sale papers. Vincent had forged my signature on some documents. Jessica had lied to the notary about my mental state, saying I had asked her to sell because I couldn't take care of the house anymore. Lies on top of lies. Like a tower built on sand, and I was about to knock it down. A week before the hearing, I got a package. No return address. I opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten letter. Jessica's handwriting. Mom, please read this. Please listen to me. I know I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But I did it because I had no choice. Vincent was in danger. Bad people were threatening him. And me. If we didn't pay, something terrible was going to happen. I thought I could sell the house, pay the debts, and then buy you something better. Something smaller, but easier to maintain. I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you. You're my mother. I love you. I've always loved you. Please drop the lawsuit. Please forgive me. We can fix this as a family. Without lawyers, without judges, just you and me, like before. I'm begging you, Mom. Don't destroy your own daughter. I read the letter 3 times. Each time, I felt less. The first time, I felt a pang in my chest. The second time, just exhaustion. The third time, nothing. Just empty words from someone who was finally understanding the consequences of her actions. I put the letter in a folder with all the other documents. I didn't answer. I didn't call. I did nothing. Because there was nothing to say. Maria came over that afternoon. I showed her the letter. She read it and shook her head. Pure manipulation. See how she's not really apologizing? Just making excuses. She's just playing the victim. She never truly says, I'm sorry. She was right. Nowhere in the letter did Jessica say the words that mattered. She never acknowledged she had betrayed me. She never accepted real responsibility. She was just trying to make me feel guilty for defending myself. 2 days before the hearing, Mr. Coleman had me come to his office. We had to prepare my testimony, practice the questions, anticipate what Jessica and Vincent's lawyer would try to do. They're going to try to paint you as a confused old woman. They're going to say you asked them to sell, that you agreed to it, that you changed your mind later and now you're accusing them unfairly. And how do we prove that's a lie? With this, he took out his phone. He showed me a recording. It was a conversation between Jessica and Vincent, the two of them, talking about how to convince me to sign the power of attorney. How to send me far away. How to sell the house without me realizing it until it was too late. Where did you get this? A private investigator. He followed them for weeks, recorded several conversations, all admissible in court because they were in public places. Restaurants, the street, the bank. I listened to the whole recording. Jessica's voice was cold, calculating. She talked about me as if I were a problem to be solved, an obstacle to be removed. The old woman doesn't suspect a thing. We'll give her the trip. We'll keep her distracted. By the time she gets back, there will be new owners, and she won't be able to do anything. Vincent laughed. The bastard. He laughed at my pain, at my naivete, at my mother's love they were using as a weapon. Is this enough? I asked, my voice trembling. More than enough. With this, we bury them. I couldn't sleep that night. I stayed awake thinking about the hearing, about seeing Jessica face to face, about telling her, in front of a judge, everything she had done, everything she had taken from me. I got up at 4 a.m, made coffee. I sat by the window, watching the city wake up, the lights coming on, one by one, people leaving for work, life going on, regardless of my pain. I thought about Arthur, what he would say if he were here. He would probably hug me, tell me I did the right thing, that protecting myself isn't selfishness, that defending what's mine isn't cruelty. Or maybe he'd tell me to forgive her, that Jessica was our daughter. That family was the most important thing. But Arthur wasn't here. He didn't see what I saw. He didn't feel what I felt when I opened that door and found a new lock. When I heard my daughter say, "Now you're homeless," with a smile on her face. No, Arthur wasn't here, and I had to make my own decisions. The day of the hearing, I dressed carefully. A simple but dignified dress. Comfortable shoes, my hair pulled back, not too much makeup. I wanted to look like what I was. A 70-year-old woman, a betrayed mother, a victim seeking justice. Maria came with me. She took my arm as we walked to the courthouse. Mr. Coleman was waiting for us at the entrance. Ready? I will be. We went in. The hallway smelled like disinfectant and old paper. Our footsteps echoed on the marble floor. We walked toward the courtroom. My legs were shaking, but I kept going. We pushed open the doors. And there they were, Jessica and Vincent, sitting on the other side with their lawyer. She saw me, and her eyes filled with tears. Fake tears. An actress's tears. I sat down. I looked straight ahead. Not at her. Never at her. I had already given her enough years of my life. Enough tears. Enough wasted love. Now it was my turn to talk. My turn to be heard. My turn to get back what was mine. The judge entered. We all rose. The hearing began. And I was ready to tell my truth. All of it. Without fear, without shame, without regret. Because I had finally understood something it took me 70 years to learn. Sometimes, love isn't enough. Sometimes, you have to choose yourself. And choosing myself didn't make me a bad mother. It made me a strong woman. A survivor. A woman who refused to be a victim ever again. The judge called for order. The courtroom fell still. The only sounds were the hum of the air conditioning and my heart pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Mr. Coleman stood up first. His voice was firm, confident, as if he knew exactly what was going to happen. Your Honor, today we present a case of fraud, breach of trust, and elder abuse. Mrs. Eleanor Hayes was the victim of a premeditated plan, executed by her own daughter and son-in-law, to strip her of her only asset. Jessica was sobbing on the other side. Vincent had his arm around her. They both looked like victims. They both acted as if they were the ones who had been wronged. I wanted to scream, but I stayed silent, waiting for my turn. Mr. Coleman first presented the documents, the deeds, the transfers, the records proving I had moved the property into a trust 3 weeks before I left on my trip, that the house Jessica sold was no longer legally mine in the way she thought, that the entire transaction was fraudulent. Jessica's lawyer stood up. He was a young man. Expensive suit. Too much gel in his hair. He spoke with that arrogance of people who have never truly suffered. Your Honor, my client acted in good faith. Her mother gave her broad power of attorney. She gave her explicit permission to handle her affairs. There was no way for her to know about this trust. Mrs. Hayes never mentioned it. In fact, we argue that this trust was created specifically to entrap my client. It is the mother who acted with malice, not the daughter. I felt my blood boil. I acted with malice? I, who was only trying to protect the little I had left? The judge raised his hand. Mrs. Hayes, will you please approach the stand? I stood up. My legs were trembling. Maria squeezed my hand before letting go. I walked to the front. I felt Jessica's eyes on my back. But I didn't turn. I didn't give her that satisfaction. I swore to tell the truth. I sat down. The judge looked at me with tired eyes. Eyes that had seen too many families destroy themselves in this very room. Mrs. Hayes, tell me in your own words what happened. I took a deep breath, and I began. Your Honor, 6 months ago, my daughter Jessica and my son-in-law Vincent came to my house. They proposed a trip. They told me I deserved it, that I had worked my whole life and it was time to rest. It sounded wonderful, but something didn't feel right. What didn't feel right? The way they said it, the urgency in their eyes, the way Vincent looked at my house, as if he were calculating its value, as if he no longer saw me, but only the money he could get from my walls. Jessica's lawyer jumped up. Objection, Your Honor. Speculation. Mrs. Hayes can't know what my client was thinking. The judge nodded. Sustained. Mrs. Hayes, just the facts, please. I continued. They asked me to sign a power of attorney. They said it was for security, in case something happened while I was away. I hesitated. But Jessica is my daughter. My only daughter. How can you distrust your own blood? My voice broke. I paused. The judge waited. I signed. And 3 days before I left, something made me seek legal advice. I went to my lawyer. I told him my suspicions. He suggested the trust, as protection, just in case. Just in case what? Just in case my daughter tried to sell me out. And that's exactly what she did. Jessica shouted from her seat. That's not true. Mom, tell them the truth. You agreed to it. The judge banged his gavel. Order. Miss Hayes, you will have your turn to speak. Mr. Coleman approached. He had papers in his hand. Your Honor, I would like to present additional evidence. He handed documents to the judge. Then he took out his phone. He connected it to an audio system. This is a legally obtained recording in a public space. A conversation between Jessica Hayes and Vincent Russo 2 days before Mrs. Eleanor Hayes left for her trip. He pressed play. Jessica's voice filled the room. The old woman doesn't suspect a thing. We'll give her the trip. We'll keep her distracted. By the time she gets back, there will be new owners, and she won't be able to do anything. Then Vincent's voice. And if she asks about the house, we'll tell her there was a problem, that we had to sell it to protect her, to pay taxes or something. At her age, she's not thinking clearly. She won't be able to do anything. The two of them, laughing at me, at my trust, at my love. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. Jessica was pale. Vincent had his head down. Their lawyer was frantically shuffling papers, looking for something to say. The judge took off his glasses. Anything to add, Miss Hayes? Jessica stood up. The tears weren't for show anymore. Now they were real. Desperate. We. It wasn't like that. I love her. She's my mother. I was just scared. Vincent had debts. Dangerous people. They were going to hurt him. Hurt me. I had no choice. No choice? Mr. Coleman's voice was cold. No choice but to steal from your 70-year-old mother? To leave her homeless? To laugh about it while you planned your betrayal? Jessica was sobbing uncontrollably now. Vincent tried to stand, but his lawyer pulled him down. The judge reviewed the documents. Minutes passed that felt like hours. Finally, he spoke. I have seen many cases in this room, families destroying each other over money, over property, over inheritances. But this is particularly painful. A daughter betraying her mother, using her trust as a weapon. Jessica tried to speak, but the judge raised his hand. The evidence is clear. The recording is devastating. The documents prove premeditation. This was not a last-minute, desperate decision. It was a carefully executed plan. He looked directly at Jessica. Miss Hayes, do you have anything to say in your defense? Anything that can explain why you betrayed the woman who gave you life? Jessica looked at me. Her eyes were begging, asking for forgiveness without words, looking for the mother in me who always forgave, who always understood, who always put her well-being before my own. But that mother was dead, and the woman who was left had no more forgiveness to give. I looked away. It was the hardest thing I had ever done in my life, but I did it. Jessica began to speak, her voice broken. Mom, please, look at me, please. I made a mistake, the worst mistake of my life. But you're my mother. You can't do this. You can't destroy me. What would Dad have said? What would he say if he saw you doing this? Those words cut through me like bullets. Mentioning Arthur, using his memory as a weapon, it was the lowest blow she could deliver. I stood up. My voice came out stronger than I expected. Your father would be devastated, but not with me, with you. He worked until his heart gave out to give you a better life. And you paid him back by trying to rob his widow. Me, his wife, your mother. The judge banged his gavel. That's enough. I'm calling a 2-hour recess. I will deliver my verdict when we return. We left the courtroom. Maria hugged me. Mr. Coleman was smiling. You did perfectly, Eleanor. Perfect. But I didn't feel victorious. I just felt empty, tired, as if I had aged 10 years in those 2 hours. We went to a coffee shop near the courthouse. I ordered a tea. I didn't touch it. I just stared at the cup while Maria and the lawyer talked strategy. About what came next. How to recover the money. How to make sure they could never come near me again. I barely listened. I was thinking about Jessica, about the little girl she was, about the good times we'd had, about the nights I sat by her bed when she had nightmares, about the times I cleaned her scraped knees, about the hugs she gave me when she was little and I was her whole world. When did I lose that girl? When did she become the woman who betrayed me? Your tea is getting cold, Maria said. I'm not thirsty. You need to eat something, drink something. The most important part is still to come. She was right. The judge hadn't given his verdict yet. Anything could still happen. We went back to the courthouse. The room was fuller now. Curious onlookers, reporters, neighbors who had heard about the case. Everyone wanted to see how the story of the mother betrayed by her daughter would end. I felt exposed, vulnerable, but also strangely strong. Because this time, I wasn't alone. Maria was by my side. Mr. Coleman was ready to defend me. And I had the truth on my side. The judge entered. We all stood. He Saturday opened a folder, read something, then he looked at us. I have reviewed all the evidence, I have heard the testimonies, and I have reached a conclusion. The silence was deafening. The sale of the property is declared null and void, fraudulent. Without legal validity, the money obtained must be returned in its entirety to Mrs. Eleanor Hayes' trust. Furthermore, I am ordering a criminal investigation into Jessica Hayes and Vincent Russo for fraud, forgery, and breach of trust. Jessica screamed, a scream that came from her soul. Vincent slammed his fist on the table. His lawyer tried to calm him. Furthermore, I am issuing a restraining order. Jessica Hayes and Vincent Russo are not to come within 100 yards of Eleanor Hayes. They may not contact her. They may not go to her residence. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. The gavel fell. The sound resonated in my bones. Case closed. I sat there. I couldn't move. Maria was crying beside me. Mr. Coleman was patting my shoulder. But I just stared straight ahead. I had won. I had gotten my house back. I had proven the truth. I had gotten justice. But I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt like a mother who had lost her daughter forever. Jessica tried to approach me, but 2 bailiffs stopped her. She was screaming my name. Mom! 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 Each time more desperate. Each time more broken. I walked out of the courtroom without looking back. I walked down that long hallway, knowing I had crossed a bridge I could never cross back. Outside, the sun was shining. The city was still alive. People were walking. Cars were passing, life went on, and I would too, without my daughter, without my family, but with my dignity intact, with my house safe, with my truth finally heard. It was a bitter victory, but it was my victory, and no one could take it from me. The days after the verdict were strange, silent, as if the world had stopped and I was learning to breathe again. I stayed in the small apartment Maria had found for me. I knew I could go back to my house soon, but I needed time to process, time to heal, time to understand who I was now. A week after the hearing, Mr. Coleman called. "Eleanor, I have news. The bank has frozen all of Vincent and Jessica's accounts. The money from the sale is being transferred back to the trust. There are also formal criminal charges. The DA's office has decided to proceed." What does that mean? It means they're going to trial. They could go to prison, Vincent especially. He has a record of fraud. This isn't his first time. I didn't say anything. I just listened as the lawyer explained the next steps. Hearings, testimonies, more papers, more days in court. "Eleanor, are you all right?" "I'm tired. Just tired." I hung up. I sat by the window. Outside, children were playing in the street. A couple walked by, holding hands. An old man was walking his dog. Normal life. A life I no longer recognized. 3 days later, Maria arrived. She had the newspaper. "Eleanor, it's in the news." She opened the paper. There it was. Front page of the local section. A picture of Jessica leaving the courthouse, her hands covering her face. The headline read, "Daughter accused of defrauding 70-year-old mother in fraudulent property sale." I read the article. Every word was like a nail. They described everything. The plan, Vincent's debts, the betrayal, my testimony, the verdict. All of it, exposed for the world to see. "How do you feel?" Maria asked. "I don't know." Part of me wanted everyone to know the truth. But another part didn't want my daughter to be humiliated like this, publicly. She chose this, Eleanor. Every action has a consequence. She was right, but that didn't make it hurt any less. The next few days, the phone didn't stop ringing. Unknown numbers, reporters wanting interviews, people from the neighborhood with questions, neighbors who suddenly remembered me. I turned off the phone. I needed silence. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Mr. Coleman. "Eleanor, Vincent was arrested. He couldn't make bail. He's in jail awaiting trial. And Jessica? She's free for now, but her life has fallen apart. She lost her job. The scandal reached her company. They fired her. The apartment they were living in is in foreclosure. The banks are calling in the debts." I felt a pit in my stomach. It wasn't satisfaction. It was something more complex, more painful. There's something else, too. Jessica tried to kill herself 3 days ago. The world stopped. What? She took pills. A neighbor found her. She's in the hospital. Stable, but on watch. I thought you should know. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Maria was with me. She saw my face. What happened? Jessica tried to kill herself. Maria hugged me. I didn't cry. I had no tears left. There was just a huge, empty space where a mother's love used to be. "Are you going to go see her?" Maria asked. "I don't know. You don't have to decide now. Take your time." I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake, thinking of Jessica in a hospital bed. Alone, broken, wanting to die. My daughter, the child I carried in my womb, whom I fed from my breast, whom I taught to walk, to talk, to live. And I also thought of the woman who betrayed me, who stole from me, who laughed at my pain, who left me homeless. The two were the same person, and I had to decide which one I saw when I closed my eyes. The next day, I went to the hospital. I didn't tell anyone. I just took a cab and went. I asked for her at the front desk. They gave me the room number. I rode the elevator up, my heart pounding in my ears. I walked down that hospital corridor, that smell of disinfectant and sickness. Those fluorescent lights that made everything look lifeless. I got to her door. Room 412. I stood there. without knocking, without going in, just looking. Through the small window, I could see her, Jessica, lying in the bed, hooked up to wires and monitors, pale, gaunt. She was no longer the arrogant woman from the luxury apartment. She was just a broken person. I knocked on the door. Softly. She opened her eyes. She saw me. Her expression changed. Surprise, fear, hope, all at the same time. I went in. I closed the door behind me. I stayed near the exit, ready to leave if I had to. "Mom." Her voice was just a whisper. "I came to see you." I didn't think you'd come. I thought you hated me." I moved a little closer, not to the bed. "Just one more step. I don't hate you, Jessica. But I can't forgive what you did either." She closed her eyes. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I wanted to die. I still want to die. I've lost everything. My job, my home, my husband is in jail. And I lost you. I have nothing left. You lost yourself first. Long before you lost me." She was sobbing now, hoarse sounds coming from deep in her chest. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know when it all spun out of control. Vincent had the debts. I was scared. And I thought the house was the solution. I thought you didn't need it as much as we did. That you were old and would probably die soon anyway. And then the house would be mine. I thought I was just speeding up the inevitable." Those words, like knives. "You thought I would die soon anyway. Is that how you saw me? As someone who was already dead? As an obstacle waiting to disappear?" She didn't answer. She just cried. I sat in the chair beside her bed. Not for her, but because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. For 70 years I've been a mother. I've put your needs before mine. I've sacrificed my dreams for yours. I've worked until my body ached so you could have what I never had. And somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing me as your mother and started seeing me as an inheritance to be collected." "Mom, no. Let me finish. I came here not to forgive you. I came to say goodbye, to close this chapter, to let you go." "No, please, don't. You're not my daughter anymore. Jessica, the little girl I loved, died a long time ago. The woman who's left is a stranger who hurt me. And I can't have that woman in my life." I stood up. I walked to the door. "Wait. Mom, wait. What's going to happen to me? What am I going to do? You're going to live with the consequences of your decisions. Like everyone else. You're going to face the charges. You're going to pay your debt to society. And then you're going to rebuild your life. Without me. But I'm your daughter. I'm your only family. You're not. My family was your father. And he's gone. Now, I just have myself, and that has to be enough." I opened the door. "Mom, please. I love you. I've always loved you." I stopped. I didn't turn around. I just spoke toward the door. Love isn't enough when it's mixed with betrayal. Love doesn't erase what you did. It doesn't give me back the nights I cried. It doesn't give me back the security I lost. Love without respect is worthless, and you lost my respect the day you signed the sale papers for my house. I left. I closed the door behind me. I walked down that hallway without looking back. I heard her screaming, "Mom! Mom! Please!" But I didn't stop. In the elevator, I ran into a nurse. "Are you family for the patient in 412? I'm her mother. She's very fragile emotionally. She needs support. She needs family. She made choices that destroyed that family. Now she has to heal on her own." The elevator doors opened. I walked out of the hospital. Into the Sunday, the fresh air hit my face. I took a deep breath. Maria was waiting for me at the entrance. I didn't ask how she knew where I was. She just hugged me. "Did you see her?" "Yes." "And?" I said goodbye. We didn't cry. We just walked to the cab. We got in. I gave the driver the address for my house, my real house. It was time to go back. A week later, Mr. Coleman called with more news. Vincent took a plea deal. 3 years in prison. Jessica would face trial. Probably 2 years probation if she pleaded guilty. It was all coming to an end. Justice was being served. The money was being returned. My house was being freed. I had won. On paper, in the law, in court. But when I closed my eyes at night, I didn't feel victory. I just felt the weight of a lost daughter, of a destroyed family, of 70 years of love that ended in a courtroom. The price of justice had been high, maybe too high, but it was a price I was willing to pay, because the alternative was to keep being a victim, to keep being stepped on, to keep dying a little every day, and I had chosen to live, even if it meant living alone, even if it meant carrying the weight of having destroyed my own daughter, because in the end, she destroyed me first. I just defended myself, and that would have to be enough. 3 months after the trial, I went back to my house. The real one. The one Arthur and I bought so many years ago. The one Jessica tried to sell. The one that was finally mine again. Completely mine. Maria came with me. We opened the door together. The stale, dusty smell hit me first, then the memories. Every corner had a story. Every wall held a moment. But they didn't hurt like they used to. Now they were just echoes of a life that was over. I opened the windows. I let the fresh air in. The sunlight lit up the living room, and for the first time in months, I felt something like peace. "Are you going to stay here?" Maria asked. "I don't know yet. Maybe. Or maybe I'll sell it and buy something new, something that doesn't have so many ghosts." She nodded. She helped me clean. We spent the whole day sweeping, dusting, organizing. When we finished, the house felt different, lighter, as if it too had let go of the past. That night, I stayed alone. I made tea. I sat on the sofa where I had sat with Arthur so many times. I looked at the photographs on the wall. Our wedding. Jessica as a baby. Christmases. Birthdays. A family that was once happy. I picked up the photograph of Jessica graduating from college. Arthur was crying with pride that day. So was I. Our daughter was a professional. She had achieved what we never could. I stroked the photo. Then I put it in a box. Along with the others. I didn't throw them away. I couldn't. But I didn't need them on the wall either. I didn't need the daily reminder of what I had lost. The next few days were for reorganizing. Mr. Coleman finalized the papers. The money from the fraudulent sale was returned. $250,000 was back in my account. More money than I had ever seen in one place in my life. But the money didn't make me happy. It just made me feel secure, protected, like I finally had a cushion against the world. One afternoon, the doorbell rang. It was Mr. Coleman. "Eleanor, I came to bring you the final documents. Everything is closed. The house is completely in your name. No liens, no problems. It's yours to do with as you please. I'm also bringing you this." He handed me an envelope. I opened it. It was a letter from Jessica, handwritten from prison. She had taken the deal. 2 years. She would be out in 18 months with good behavior. "I don't want to read it," I said. "You don't have to. I just thought you should have the option." I put the letter away, unread. Maybe one day. Maybe never. It didn't matter. Mr. Coleman left. I stood there with the envelope in my hands, feeling its weight, wondering what it said, what excuses, what pleas, what empty promises. I put it in a drawer, along with all the other letters she had sent me. Dozens of them, all unopened, all unread. It wasn't cruelty, it was survival. Every letter was a temptation to go back, to forgive, to forget. And I couldn't afford that luxury. Not again. That night, I made a decision. I was going to sell the house, not because I hated it, but because I needed to start over. I needed a place that was just mine, with no memories, no ghosts. No pain. I called Maria. She knew a real estate agent, a good one, an honest one. In 2 weeks, we listed the house. In a month, we had offers. In 2 months, I closed the sale. $400,000, more than I had ever imagined. With that money, and the money recovered from the fraudulent sale, I had over $600,000. A fortune for a 70-year-old woman. I bought a small house, on the outskirts of the city, near a lake. A quiet place where people didn't know me, where there were no pitying glances, where I could just be Eleanor, Not the betrayed mother, not the victim, just me. The house had 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen with a window overlooking the lake, a yard where I could plant flowers. It was perfect. I moved in on a Tuesday. Maria helped me. So did Rosalind and Mrs. Gable, neighbors from the old neighborhood who had always been kind to me. Between all of us, we carried my few things. Boxes of clothes, books, a few photographs, not much else. That night, alone in my new house, I sat on the porch. The lake was shining under the moon. I could hear crickets. The wind moved through the trees. Everything was peaceful. I thought about Arthur. How proud he would be of me. How I defended myself. How I survived. I thought about Jessica, in the prison where she was paying for her crimes, whether she would one day come out changed or just more bitter. I thought about me, about the 70 years I had lived, about everything I had lost, about everything I had gained. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a sad smile, a real smile, of liberation, of hope, of a new beginning. The following months were about discovery. I learned to truly live alone, not alone and waiting for someone to visit, alone by choice, alone and whole. I started walking every morning around the lake. I met other neighbors, older people like me, also with stories, also with losses, also learning to live again. I joined a book club. We read novels, poetry, biographies. We talked about books, but we also talked about life, about children who disappointed, about marriages that ended, about dreams that never came true, and also about hopes, about second chances, about better days. I learned to drive. At 70 years old, I finally got my license. I bought a small car, used but reliable, and I drove to the city, to the beach, to places I had never visited, feeling the wind on my face, freedom in my hands. I started to write. Not a book, just thoughts, memories, letters to myself, letters to Arthur, letters to the Jessica I once knew and loved. One of those letters said, "Dear 5-year-old Jessica," the one who had nightmares that I calmed, the one who hugged me and told me I was the best mom in the world. I don't know where I lost you. I don't know when you became someone I don't recognize. But I want you to know that I loved you with all my heart, and part of me will always love you. But that part lives in the past, and I live in the present. Goodbye, my little girl. Goodbye forever. I put that letter in a box, along with the photographs, along with the memories, and I closed the box. Not with a lock, just closed. Because someday, maybe I'd want to open it, or maybe not. And either option was fine. A year after the trial, Jessica got out of prison. Maria told me. I just nodded. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know where she was living, what she was doing, if she had changed. She tried to contact me. Through Maria. Through Mr. Coleman. Asking for a chance to talk, to explain, to apologize, face to face. I said no. I still wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be, and that was okay too, because I had learned something important in these months. Forgiveness is not mandatory. You don't owe it to anyone, not even your daughter, especially not if she destroyed you first. Forgiveness is a gift you give when you're ready, if you're ever ready. And I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. And my life was still beautiful anyway. Now I'm 71 years old. I live in a house by a lake. I have friends, I have peace, I have freedom, I have dignity. I don't have family, but I have something more important. I have myself. And after 70 years of living for others, I am finally living for me. Every morning, I get up. I make coffee. I go out on the porch. I watch the lake sparkle in the sunday. And I give thanks. I'm thankful for the strength I found when I thought I had none. I'm thankful for the people who helped me when I needed it most. I'm thankful for surviving the worst betrayal and for coming out stronger on the other side. To all of you who listened to me, who followed my story, who maybe saw some of yourselves in me, I want to tell you this. It is never too late to defend yourself. It's never too late to choose yourself. It's never too late to say enough. It doesn't matter if the person hurting you is your son, your daughter, your husband, your family. If they hurt you, you have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to walk away. You have the right to live in peace. Love does not justify abuse. Blood does not justify betrayal. And being a mother does not mean being a victim. For 70 years, I was Eleanor the wife. Eleanor the mother. Eleanor the one who always forgave. Now, I am just Eleanor. And that is enough. More than enough. It's everything. If my story helped you in any way, if it gave you strength, if it showed you that it's never too late to reclaim your life, then it was all worth it. I thank you for listening, for being here, for joining me on this journey of pain and healing. If you want to share your own stories, if you want to comment, if you just want to say you're out there, I read them, I hear you, and I send you a hug from a distance, because we are all in this together. We are all learning to live, to heal, to be strong. And if I could do it at 70 years old, you can too. I'll leave you with this. A thought I wrote down last night while looking at the lake. I spent 70 years being for others. Now, I am for myself. And I discovered that isn't selfishness. It's self-respect. It's survival. It's life. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. May you find your peace. May you find your strength. May you find your own lake where you can heal. With all my heart, Eleanor.